Hello, my name is Lemerck, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to Season 2 of the Naval Sports League. The NSL is the premier competitive league in Holdfast's Age of Sail. The NSL is the proving ground of greatness for Holdfast's most experienced and accomplished sailors, officers, and captains. Battles take place on various maps with unpredictable wind conditions, forcing teams to plan for the best but adapt to the worst as the whims of fortune demand. We are especially excited this season for the many new features Holdfast has given us in the new Age of Sail update, adding incredible mechanics like boarding and ship capture and captain commands. We have included almost every new feature Anvil Game Studios has given us in this new update, though even with all these new dimensions to the game, the path to victory in the NSL remains the same as ever. A team wins the match in the NSL by sinking or capturing all the opponent's largest ships, the heavy, powerful 17-gun brigs and the lighter, more maneuverable 8-gun schooners. These are what we call the capital ships of the NSL, and once they are all sunk or stolen, the battle immediately ends. Each team has 35 minutes to complete this mission, and if the timer concludes before either team can completely defeat the other, then the team which has the most capital ships remaining under their control wins the battle. If both teams have the same amount of capital ships, the tie is decided in favor of whoever has the highest overall point score. There are 8 teams competing this year, some returning, some newly formed. All of them have the same goal, to put together a record of victories in their battles to make it into the top 4 teams of the league. Only the top 4 teams will have a chance to compete for the Champion's Prize, which is determined by a 2-week tournament among those top 4 teams, which will take place after the regular season ends. I want to thank you for joining us today, and I hope the league can inspire you to pick up Holdfast yourself, jump on a ship, and learn the art of sailing as we all have. Perhaps one day you too will compete in the Naval Sports League and burn bright in the fires of competition. The pregame coverage will begin shortly. I wish all the teams the best of luck, and I'm confident they will put on a tremendous show of courage and bravery for you to enjoy. So stick around and see what happens here at the Naval Sports League. Hi, everybody. My name is Lemerck, and welcome to Season 2 of the Naval Sports League. I am so excited. Today, I am, as I said, if I've said, I'm Lemerck. I am joined today by Muffin Top Scout and Krakrns. Gentlemen, say hello to the fans.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
All right, guys, we have a action-packed league battle today. We have a lot to talk about before we get started, a lot to explain, and a lot to introduce both old and new fans to the NSL. I think where we should start today is by introducing everything that they're seeing on screen, the different teams in the league, who we're going to be watching today, and then we can get into the map and talk a little bit about some of the nuts and bolts of how this battle is going to play out. I want to start by introducing everybody to the teams themselves. So let's go down that list and talk a little bit about every team. Starting with the Beavers. If you joined us last season, you will remember a team called the Jackals of the Baltic Sea. They have rebranded and reamalgamated. There are some new parts of the team. There are some old parts of the team, but they are now the Beavers. This was a long-running joke that we all had with the Beavers. They love to chop down masts. They love to get close and personal. I think this name really suits this team. I hope that we're going to see a lot of close action from these guys and a lot of utilizing the new boarding and capture mechanics from these guys. Next on the list is the Hydras. Muffin Top Scout here is a member of the Hydras, perhaps the prominent member of the Hydras. And so, Muffin, do you want to tell us a little bit about what your Hydras look like? If you were here last season, I'll just say, if you remember the SCP team, right? That is now who we're talking about when we talk about the Hydras. What's changed, Muffin?
The main change really is we've taken a piece of the Jackals. We've absorbed a piece of them into our group, the 15 PP, another Polish group, and we really pushed for the 7th Foos and our other smaller teammates to come in and join us.
Great, great. Well, obviously, last season was a breakout season for your team on the Hydras. Coming into season 2, you guys are now veterans, right? Lots going to be expected from you guys, and I think you guys have really formed your team to be ready to tackle the new challenges of this new era. But alongside, hopefully, my own team, a team that has been one of your rivals throughout last season, and I'm sure will be again this season. One of the teams we'll be watching today is the Krakrns. Now, I know it says KRA, KRNS. We call them the Krakrns. That's the KRA, KRN is a terminology that they use, right? Their main regiment is the KRA, and the KRN is their naval wing, and they put it all together, and it kind of looks like Krakrns, and we call them the Krakrns. The Krakrns are an incredible team. They made 3rd place last year and last season. And for most of the season, they were a completely dominant team right up until the bitter end when the competition got really heated. They made 3rd place, a great team, and you're going to see, I think, today why. The Leviathans are my team. The Leviathans are made up of ex-Lemerk's Pirate Fleet. That's my regiment, along with some friends that we have brought along the way. We have the Marines up next, and Krakrns, you are the admiral for the Marines. The Marines were one of our competing teams last season, and they come back to us again this season with no name change. Krakrns, is there anything you want to tell us about your team this year?
Well, due to the nature of the NSL opening up to the console players, we've got a much larger roster than last time, as well as our captain's roster. So I think it's going to be a much better season. We finished it last season as in last place, so we want to do marginally better this season.
Well, right. Well, we're looking forward to seeing what you guys bring to the league this season. I know that you are coming seriously for a top slot. Then we have the Rangers. This is one of the new teams, so this is not like a team that's converted from an old team. The Rangers are a brand new team. The TRR have joined us, and they are bringing lots of people. And what we can expect from them is kind of up in the air because we haven't seen many of them in the competition last season, so they're a wild card. The Rumrats are another wild card. We're going to get to see what they're made of today. They are made from the 44th, and the Rumrats, which I think we all agree is a fantastic name for a team. They are sort of a monolith team. I believe that they are just the 44th. I could be wrong. They may have maybe a smattering of other people that are joining them for this season, but that is a one regiment team. They're bringing a lot. They're one of the biggest regiments in Holdfast alongside the KRA, who are also one of the biggest regiments in Holdfast that make up the Krakrns. So they've got more than enough bodies to spare to fill out their ships. We're going to see how a neophyte team like them stacks up against the 3rd place team from last season, the Krakrns. We're going to watch that today. And then we have the Sea Otters. The Sea Otters are a new team. Again, not really a conversion from an old team. They are made up of the GDE and NJ. These are the GDE component specifically, and their admiral is a gentleman named Random Billy, who is an old friend of mine, one of the great legends of naval. And certainly a mature and well-experienced stewardship on the top of that team. At least that's as much as I can say. The NJ also bring lots of bodies and lots of manpower to supplement that leadership. And I'm sure they have commanders all of their own. I just unfortunately don't know them yet, but I'm sure we'll all get introduced to them over the course of this season. So now let's get to who we're going to be watching today. We've got the Rumrats versus the Krakrns. Now, as many of you have noticed, we have 3 hosts today. Myself as the host and my 2 co-hosts, Muffin Top and Krakrns. We're going to be doing a little different than last season. This season, I'm going to be your general host, trying to keep things bouncing back and forth to keep you informed about what's happening in the battle, whereas Muffin Top is going to focus specifically on the Krakrns. He's going to be your eyes and ears on the Krakrns. He's going to tell you how they're doing, how they're feeling, what their status is, what actions they're taking. Krakrns, on the other hand, is going to be there with the Rumrats. He's going to be your eyes and ears for the Rumrats. So when I pass it over, right, that's who they're going to be talking about. So before we get started, I wanted to give each of these gentlemen an opportunity to give the case for why they think their team is going to win today. I'm going to start with what I would probably assume is the underdog here, which is the Rumrats, and I'm going to pass it over to Krakrns. Krakrns, you are the Rumrats today. Why are you going to win?
Well, That is a difficult one. No, I'm joking. I think that the Rumrats, they're the underdog, as you said, but they're also a group of well-trained regiment members. They've pioneered line infantry for a long time, and they're making their their sort of insertion into naval with this our naval sports league, and I think they're going to do well purely. Based on the fact that they do have experienced captains in the group, and they've got really good cohesion in the team. So yeah, I think that's going to be one of their leading focus. But if nothing at all, they're going to learn a lot from this first game.
Yeah, agreed 100%. And the talk of the naval community has been the growth in the 44th. So we're going to call them Rumrats from here on out. But that the team that makes the Rumrats, the 44th, they came and started coming to naval events not too long ago, though they have been playing now for months. And when they came and they were just starting out and learning, they could be an unwieldy crew. And nowadays, they have really, really improved. And I think that's been in the run up to coming to the NSL. Joining the NSL has a invigorating effect on any regiment that joins. And so I think the Rumrats are going to show what they've been putting together in that. All right, let's pass it over to Muffin Top. You are repping the Krakrns. Why are the Krakrns going to win today?
Well, while the 44th or the Rumrats might have that maybe new guy spunk coming in, the Krakrns are battle-hardened, veterans from all the way back in the preseason. They understand naval tactics quite well. Granted, this new update might put them on the back foot, we'll have to see, but overall, they've shown that they can go toe-to-toe with all the other top teams in terms of gunnery, and now I'm kind of curious to see if they can translate that into a more aggressive boarding. But I think overall, their discipline will pay off in this fight.
Yeah. And I think that is the elephant in the room, what you mentioned there, which is, we are in a new era of naval. If you were a fan and you listened last season at some of the very final Admirals sort of interviews that we had, I personally talked a lot about the fact that we are in an era of a transition. And then now that transition has firmly happened. Things are very, very, very different now. Specifically, I think the biggest change here is that the cannons shoot differently. They have different trajectories. They have different ways of aiming. Everything is different here. So the guys that you watched last season who were incredible cannoneers who never missed, they are acclimating to a completely new reality. Now, I think great cannoneers are great cannoneers no matter what. They're going to learn. But at this stage, we're only a few weeks in to this new era. Nobody's had time to become a master yet. So organization and tactics, I think, are going to be such an important part of what makes a team win or lose in this early part here. If you're watching on screen, you have seen our lobby cam. This is where we're just watching some of the guys as they are in the waiting room, waiting for things to happen. And after that, we are now going into the open waters. And let's take a look at our map. The map today is Azure, or Azure, or Azure. I always pronounce this wrong. Azure. Azure is a map that some of you may know from another name from last season. This is one of the maps that AGS put in the game, but was provided to them by our very own Killam, a great mapsmith and a wonderful member of this community. This is a very, very interesting map. It's seen a lot of great battles upon it, and I am very excited to kind of get into the nuts and bolts of what is going to happen on this map. And I'm going to pass it back to our co-hosts, let them kind of talk about what they think each of their teams is going to do. We'll go back to you, Muffin. You're the Krakrns. You've got this map before you. What are your thoughts when you're starting up this battle?
Well, as kind of any type of engagement, if you look over the map, you want to see the obvious choke points because you want the Rumrats, you want them to come to you, force them into the islands, though you can get them into a crossfire, maybe funnel them into some boarding, things like that. So I really think the Krakrns are going to try to push south against the wind and then hook north through the islands and try to kind of see if they can trap the Rumrats in between a couple of them.
Okay. And Krakrns, what do you think the Rumrats are thinking here? They've got a lot more open space. The islands tend to angle kind of closer to the Krakrns. What do you think they're going to do with that space?
I think that they're going to have the Krakrns come to them. I don't think they're going to try to get in between the islands. I wouldn't. I think that with having the open space, I want to think they'd test their gunnery skills, see if they can match the Krakrns cannon on cannon.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think, the boarding action aspect is the great unknown, right? The cannon trajectories are different. Yes, you can repair ships now. That's incredible. There's a whole new ship called the Corvette, which we haven't even gotten to talk about yet, but you'll see it in action, folks. But I think the big thing that's going to swing these battles is the ability to capture a ship. And for those of you who are wondering how that works, the capture mechanic is one in which you can put your troops on an enemy ship and you can actually contest that ship, the control of that ship. If you eliminate and outnumber the enemy on that ship for 75 seconds, you get the ship. It transfers over to your team. It is now your ship. Now, there are some caveats. You cannot respawn on that ship. So whoever survives that boarding action, that's who's got the ship, no more. If those people die, if everybody on that ship dies, then that ship is just adrift until somebody goes and claims it. That said, the power to take a ship from the enemy fleet, especially one of the capital ships, that those 17 guns, the biggest ones you're going to see on the field, and the 8 guns, those medium ones that you're seeing on the field, it's like a 2-point swing, right? Because these battles end when all of one side's ships are sunk or captured. So if you capture an enemy ship, not only do you take a ship from the enemy, you add a ship to your own side. That can be a huge swing. And that's why boarding is going to be very difficult. So it's something that we really just have to watch and see how it's going to play out. We've made it not easy because it is a total coup to get one of those ships over. But I think these teams have been preparing themselves. A lot of teams, some of the guys here included, have been stocking their teams up with some melee experts. And those guys are going to be able to really get on board enemy ships and perhaps cause some havoc and capture. And we'll see if it happens today. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. So what do you guys predict? I'll start with Muffin. Do you predict that this is going to be more of an artillery battle or more of a boarding close action battle?
Given from a KRN perspective, I think they're going to want to start or potentially start traditionally with a cannon battle. That was their strength, one of their strengths in the preseason and in the first season. Kind of hands down, they could go toe to toe with my own SCP and your Leviathans quite well. So I
Yeah.
do think they're probably still in that camp, but given the reduced ranges of the 8s, I'm hoping that the KRN will be more aggressive, maybe close in cannoneering before they try maybe a boarding action of some form. But I
Right.
do think what we're going to see is probably initial, some just kind of old school NSL tactics of lining up.
Yeah. I think certainly in the beginning of the battle as compared to the end of the battle. What about you, Kieran's? Where do you stand on what we think we're going to see here today?
I honestly think that the 44th are really going to send it. If the Krakrns get into the open waters, I think we're going to see a lot of boarding action. We're going to see probably, as discussed, the initial shots from cannons, but I think that we're probably going to see a lot of action from the corvettes and the gunboats today.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the Corvette because the battle has started. The ships are moving out of their spawns. We're going to see how that develops, and as we see where that's going, and again, I'll be passing it over to you, co-host, to talk to me a lot about what you're seeing from your respective fleets. But the Corvette. So the Corvette does not count as a capital ship. If you sink it, it doesn't matter. It's great to have, but okay to lose. The Corvette is by far the most maneuverable ship. Honestly, it compares to gunboats in its maneuverability. That's how fast it maneuvers. Some people think it maneuvers even faster than gunboats and rocket boats. What it also has are incredibly powerful cannons on both sides of its artillery. This means that it is something of a very highly maneuverable glass cannon. It has less HP than any of the capital ships, not by a ton, but noticeably less. And its short range means that it's going to have to invade deep into an enemy's firing range, maximum fire range, before it can hit the enemy back. But when it does, it takes huge chunks out of enemy HP. Now, as a ship like that might seem to be great for boarding, and maybe it will be, but it actually also boasts the lowest crew complement compared to any other ship. The 8 guns, though less maneuverable, the 8 gun schooners, those mid-sized ships, are relatively better because they have more people at the capture mechanic than the Corvette might be. But we really, really don't know. Again, this is another wild card this season. I don't know how teams are going to use those Corvettes, and I can't wait to see. All right, so let's start checking in with our co-hosts. Kieran's, what are you seeing from the Rum Rats?
Honestly, just seeing this many ships doing this type of coordination is quite marvelous, and it's a spectacle, to be honest. It's quite nice to see. But yeah, they're getting really well coordinated. It looks like something out of a Battle of Trafalgar right now. They're doing sort of the columns with having the larger vessels on the outside of the columns, and the gunboats are in hot pursuit on the rear. But they're looking very organized. They got organized relatively quickly from the get go, so it's good to see.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing. You could really see the offsetting of those two 8 guns. They have obviously watched their season 1 NSL and understand that having your long range 17 guns, the largest ships, a little bit set back from your 8 gun schooners, the medium sized ships, is going to allow you to. The enemy has to deal with your 8 guns first, because if they get into range of the 8 guns and the 17 guns, all of a sudden they're going to be taking major fire. This is a beautiful formation from the Rum Rats. I have to say, I am very impressed. But now let's go over, Muffin. What are you seeing from the Krakrns? Big moves from the Krakrns already in this early stage.
Right. As for those of you that have seen previous seasons of NSL, you'll notice that these ships are maneuvering far more. The 8 guns, even the 17 gun. If you could check from the cameras, these ships turn a lot easier than before. That's kind of from an Age of Sail thing, and you'll see the Krakrns. They started a more traditional lineup, in a sense, a 17 gun leading the way, their 8s in the middle, then their other 17 gun bring up the rear. But now, since they're heading kind of more northwest into the Big Islands, they're kind of in 2 kind of separate groups. Now, whether that's intentional or who knows, maybe there's some chaos in their ranks. The 8s and the 17 gun in their lead and their kind of forward element are staying together, while you have a 17 gun in the Corvette kind of staying behind, which could be pretty smart. It really all depends on what type of attack angle they want to kind of go for. Do they want to dive in with one 17 gun with another one kind of posting up outside? So we'll have to see.
So Kieran's, the Rum Rats are reacting. What are you seeing that they are doing now?
Well, from my perspective, it looks like they're caught in some form of whirlpool. But I honestly think this is something that they've practiced, or they've been sort of something they've been trying to do or trying to work on doing. But maybe something they've done a little bit too early. I mean, the battle's not started yet, but I think they're just trying to get a change on the wind and really sort of flush out any problems they might have with their ship lineup. But yes, it's looking good so far. I think they're just waiting to get over to the fight.
So for those of you at home, you may not be able to see where the wind is pointing. And unfortunately, that's a bit of information that's very hard to give to you guys, because we do have what's called dynamic wind. Now, the wind started at a neutral position. That means that both teams, neither of them had the wind pointing at them. The wind was pointing basically at like a 90-degree angle from the teams and where they started. But as time passes, at least once or twice throughout the battle, the wind is going to drastically shift. Though you cannot see the wind, what you can see is how the teams use what's called their square sails. The square sails are those big square sails as compared to the triangular ones. And the square sails catch wind from behind and accelerate forward. Whereas those triangular sails that are kind of cutting down the center of the ship, they allow for sharp left and right turns. So if you've seen a square sail, for example, if we look at the Rum Rats and you see how much wind is in those square sails, how billowy they look, you can see that they have good wind. So we can guess from that information that the reason both of these teams are heading in this northwest direction is because that's the way the wind maneuvered. And that's what bringing the battle here. They both want good wind, high maneuverability. I'm seeing that from the Krakrns, they have a maybe not overextended, but a very far extended group of 3 8-guns that are looking to block the channel into those central islands. Something we saw last season on this map is that this like space between this very large island and those 3 other smaller ones, it kind of creates like a castle that you can put ships in and they can block off the different entrances into that castle. So, Muffin, it looks like they're adopting a defensive, like sort of receptive strategy here. Would you agree?
Yeah, overall, that's what it seems to be. Trying to deny kind of areas for the enemy team, the Rum Rats, to maneuver into. But as you can kind of tell, the 17 guns are now starting to get in closer because while the 17 gun range is greater than the 8s, they're not that great. I think max is right around under 500, I believe,
Yeah,
meters.
all of the ranges have been shortened. You're going to see closer battles in every regard. Even if they don't get close enough to board, these ships are going to have to get a lot closer to even shoot. And that is something that we're going to be watching as these two teams seem to be on an intersect path with each other, an intercept path with each other. Kieran's, the Rumrats have reformed that same battle line that they had in the other direction. That messiness with the turn seems to have really resolved itself, and they have this really strong and well-formed line. The 17 guns are able to exploit the gaps in the 8 guns. Like, this is just a thing of beauty. I really like it. And they're withholding their Corvette. It seems like both teams are being a little bit conservative with the Corvette, as I would expect. Though, I will say the Krakens do seem to have theirs a little bit further forward, almost in a striking position. What do you think about what you're seeing from the Rumrats at this point, Kieran's?
I think, as you said, once they got through that whirlpool, they really ironed out their battle line, and I think that the Corvette's going to be a real wild card, as with some of the previous seasons. The gunboats have been a wild card, but the Corvette is just so maneuverable. I think it will be a big deciding factor on the victories or losses we've got ahead.
When you see the Rumrats doing the maneuver that they're doing right now, right? On the moment, in the instant, what are you thinking that this turn is for? Because this is the second time the Rumrats have turned away from the Krakens. We are looking at a pretty passive first 10 minutes here. A lot of jockeying for position, not a lot of, no engagement whatsoever on either of these teams. Do we think that maybe these guys are getting a little cold feet about getting into a battle on any terms but the best of terms?
I would agree with you there. I think they're playing rather passive, rather defensive. They're going to be back to their spawn soon, but I think that because it is their first game, I think they're trying to figure out what the enemy's going to do, what the Krakens really are up to, and I think that in a way they don't want to mess their first game up. I think there's a lot of pressure lying on their first game, but it is the first game. I think they should really go with their instincts and go with their guts and just play a naval game like they would any other day.
Yeah.
Don't deep it too much.
Yeah, and I think, this is one of those things where, you only create opportunities. We talked about this last season. You only create opportunities for victory by engaging the enemy. There is no victory in hanging back. And I think these teams both know that. I think they are, though, very hungry for an initial advantage in an engagement. Now, looking at the sails of the Rumrats, right, you're not getting the impression that this turn is to catch a new or different wind. I think that they were hoping that they could get in behind the Krakens, who had kind of extended themselves out past what I call that castle, that 4-island structure, and maybe dive in and cut them off from the rear. But the Krakens, I think, saw that coming and just reoriented themselves. I think we have two teams who both want to take the first attack rather than give it. What are you feeling from the Krakens, Muffin? Do you agree with that assessment, or do you think there's something else going on here?
I think it's going to be a little bit of everything. Since this is the first NSL match of the season, it's like the first comp with the AOS update. Everything is far different than what both these teams are used to. Well, I guess you could say the 44th have this thing of, since they didn't really do it the first time around, they can really be aggressive. But I from the Kraken's point of view, I do think it's how can we mesh our traditional tactics? These ships maneuver far differently now than before. How can we do it? But I do think they want to dive in a sense. They want to try a dive.
Yeah, I think that the Krakens are probably very conscious about the fact that they were an extremely high placed team, a first round loss in season 2, I think would be devastating for them, sort of emotionally and based on their perception of themselves. And so I think they want to make sure this is a perfect match. I mean, this is a brand new team. They want to be the ones to show the new guys how it's done. They certainly don't want it to be the other way around. But of course, with 23 minutes left in this battle and no shots fired in anger, nobody's going to be showing anybody anything unless they get in there and start the fight. And I think we are probably about a minute away from seeing the first shots fired here. Both teams look like they might be ready to just get in there and start the combat. And we will see. Guys, let me know.
Hey, Lamerck,
Keep an eye on those. Yeah.
That island with the lighthouse on it.
Yes.
The 8 guns can get through that gap, right? But the
islands
17
with the
guns.
lighthouse. Yeah, I would say that probably nothing can get through that. I am
Well,
not sure.
The
But we will
Krakens
see.
are about to test that.
I think maybe the 8 guns can get through it. We will find out.
Oh
boy.
dear.
This could be a
Well,
big moment.
everyone needs to watch this angle. This could either be a nice little play or
And
There's some engagements happening now. One of the rum rats is being engaged by the larger vessels from the Kraken.
Kraken ship is
not-
beached.
Ooh.
Kraken ship is beached. Kraken ship is beached. The lead ship did not make it through those islands. That was not a spot that they could get through. This could be a moment of serious opportunity for the rum rats. Krakrns, keep telling us about the engagement that you're seeing.
Well, the rum rats initially got engaged. They did take some shots, but not much. They're on about 8/10 of their health from that lead Vanguard vessel, and they are pouring shots back on them on the Kraken. So I think they may come out of this unscathed, just based on a little bit of the commotion from the ships running aground.
Yeah.
But yes, they're trying their best to get some shots off on the Krakens.
Wow, this is Muffin.
that
Give us
ship
the
may be
situation report.
jammed. It's look, they're wiggling it. They're trying to reverse, trying to get it out, and it seems to be going away. Yeah, it seems to be freeing itself, but there was a moment probably where if 44 or the rum rats could have like really pushed in hard through this gap, at least one of their 8s to try to exploit that.
They seem to have pulled out a rowboat, and they've used the rowboat to dislodge what is the HMS Good Boy here. Let's try and use those ship names, gentlemen. It helps everybody when they're looking at it and to understand, each of these ships have custom names, another fun thing that we got in the Age of Sails. So we'll try to refer to those names when we can. Speaking of, we see the RUM Quad Aegis. I'm going to try that one. That's their lead 8-gun. It is hiding behind an island, Krakrns, because he does not want to get out and take the full brunt of the Kraken's fleet. The Krakens
No, that's a great idea.
Yeah, the Krakens have dislodged their 8-gun. It did come out safe and sound. It doesn't seem to have been particularly punished. Maybe a slight bit of HP damage. Keep talking through the HPs of these ships, guys, as you see them, especially the ones that are in this engagement. I'm going to pass it over to Muffin. Tell us what you think the Krakens are doing right now and what situation they seem to be in.
While they might have panicked a little bit, they're now moving into attack position. I think the 8s are in easy range of that enemy 8, and definitely the 17 guns. You can see War Crime and Seawolf. They're going to start pounding either that 8 or that enemy 17 gun that's right behind it. But these are going to be like point-blank shots for them coming in. So, the lead 8. What do we see over here? The Normandy. Normandy's going to cross the T.
Yeah, it looks
maybe
like
the whole fleet might, but the Normandy needs to.
a shocking development, considering that they had gotten a ship stuck against an island, their lead ship stuck against the island, that they could still bring this kind of speed. Oh, yeah. Now, of course, with the repair mechanic, that D-mast is not going to last forever, but it slows you down big time to lose a mast. So you're going to see people on that ship scrambling to the mast and hammering it like crazy to try to get that ship back up. And there it is. Mast is recovered. That's how fast it's going to happen, folks, if you have a dedicated team. But those guys, while they're repairing, are not shooting. Something to keep in mind. And only some of those guys can repair, not all of them. All right, Krakrns, rum rats, what are we seeing here?
Well, I mean, just getting that D-mast was not great. It created almost an artificial blockade for the rest of the fleet. But the Quad G's is not holding up great. It's taking the brunt of the shots. It's down to its last 1/3 of health. and I don't think it's going to last too much longer unless the rest of the fleet can support. We do have the RUM Nemesis in close pursuit and trying to sort of get some shots off onto the Kraken fleet, and the rest of the fleet are going to make that turn, and it's quite a daunting turn because they're receiving the full broadsides of the British right now, so it's not great. Another double D-mast on the Quad Gs, and it's about to go down.
They really need to get it behind an island. Oh, it's down. It's down. And you can see now that once it sinks, a bunch of crates appear next to it. Those are supplies. Those supplies are for repairs. Any ship that crashes into those, or any rowboat from any ship that crashes into those, are going to be able to collect those supplies and give them to themselves so that they can repair more later. We're seeing, Muffin, we're seeing a cross behind the fleet by one of the Kraken's 8 guns. What do you think is happening there? Give us a status.
I think they're trying to set up a crossfire. They're trying to get some lovely, lovely shots in the enemy rear formation, because since the enemy can't fire back, it's free damage, and it's devastating damage because you want your cannonballs to basically travel the length of the enemy ship, because that applies more and more damage. But I do think they have to be careful with this because of how fast these ships maneuver now. You know, a couple shots in, then you have to move in closer. Because I do think what they need to do is send that Normandy, that lead 8 gun that's been the focus. It's down to about probably about 80% health. I think it needs to stick into the enemy line. It needs to just cause chaos, force the enemy fleet to engage it. You know, use that ramming mechanic. I do think the carriage should be a little bit more kind of aggressive in this case, but overall they are winning the artillery duel. That lead enemy 17 gun is getting hit pretty hard, and the Corvette, the Karen Corvette, might try to go in for an attack from the rear. It is now getting closer to the fight.
All right, Kieran's. Tell us the HP of some of those lead ships on the Rumrats fleet, the Nemesis, the Desay. Are you seeing the HP dropping pretty significantly here? Like, is this a situation where they've got to run?
For the Nemesis especially, yeah, it's looking pretty dire right now. But you got to remember, the French fleet is basically a 4v6. Their Corvette is quite far behind the rest of the fleet. I'll just get the name. It's Glory 2 Kinloch, which is the French Corvette, and the Rumrats, I think, are trying to get into a position where they can deliver some brutal shots back onto the Kraken. Every time they come toe to toe with the British fleet, they're getting absolutely hammered. I mean, the Nemesis got out of there with about 30% of its HP remaining, so the repairmen need to whip out their hammers rather quick.
And they seem to be doing so. So what we're seeing is a general sort of retreat from the Rumrats. They're letting some of the damage get spread out over all their ships. They really needed to get the focus off of that lead 17, and they are doing so. And if we apologize if we call them 13s or 17s. They used to be 13 guns, now they're 17 guns. Same ship we're talking about here. Now, what's interesting, Kieran's, is the Rumrats Corvette tried to sneak up behind the enemy fleet, and it's getting slapped for it right now. 2 ships have broken off from the Krakens. Tell us a little bit about the action that you're seeing there, Muffin Top.
Yeah, over here, yeah, it's okay, man. It's over for the Corvette. It looks like its gunboats and the enemy Corvette are kind of surrounded, because you see one Kraken gunboat coming in from the islands. You have the enemy or the Kraken's Corvette trying to, poke it, and there's an 8 gun now fighting. Now, while there's something about that 8 gun. I know you said that Corvettes are pretty maneuverable, but 8 guns now are also fairly deadly as well in maneuverability, and they have the longer range guns to really force the Corvette away. And if I was the Normandy captain right now, I would say I'm going to cross the T of the enemy line again and try to force that lead ship into that island right there. Yeah.
It's so what we're seeing now, what I'm observing is that the Rumrats have reformed their line, but they've been punched in the nose at this point. This is they've certainly lost this first engagement. Not only are they a ship down, but they have to basically speed in Now, they have an interesting moment here, though. They have their whole fleet able to hit an Aegon and a Corvette. They've got most of their firepower trained on 2 fairly isolated ships, and the Krakens are going to have to rush to get in there. Krakrns, are you seeing that these guys look like they're going to continue concentrating on this Aegon here, or do they seem to be kind of moving on, just hitting it as they pass by?
I think it's more of a drive-by situation, but the Nemesis really got hit hard, even out of the last engagements there from the Corvette and the 8-gun. It is really struggling. It's down to about 20% health, and it's not going up a significant amount. But the rest of the fleet, they're sort of tugging on by. They're looking all right for now. But if they don't get to a point where they can repair soon, then I'm worried that they might lose their flagship, which is the Nemesis.
Yeah. Well, what we see, and I'm seeing right now from the Rumrats, is that they are bringing their Corvette in to kind of run to the end of the line and possibly do some damage on the Normandy, which is right now tangled up with the Telecherry, the rear ship of the Rumrats line. So the Krakens may be doing the first boarding action of Season 2 NSL. We will see. They are pulling up, and we are going to take a look and see how that boarding action progresses. Boarding actions are very, very difficult. Any grape shot is going to do a lot of damage, and the Normandy is taking an absolute pounding for its troubles here. I don't know if the Normandy is going to survive this. If the Glory to Kinloch, if that ship manages to get a good amount of hits on the Normandy, it's going to be a very bad day. But the Telecherry has grounded itself against one of the islands. The Aegon that was being boarded on the Rumrats team is now sliding against the beach of one of the islands. It is out of position, and it is not able to move forward. It's got to get dislodged ASAP. Meanwhile, that Glory to Kinloch, that Corvette is all alone and getting targeted not only by the enemy Corvette, but by one of the enemy 17 guns. A very dangerous position. Meanwhile, the Normandy, the KRN's 8-gun, is trying again for a boarding action against the Telecherry. We have a very exciting bit of boarding and possible boarding going on at the rear of this battle, but at the front of this battle, at the capital ships, we can see a whole nother situation going on. Either of you guys want to take us through that? Anybody want to volunteer?
Well, looking at it, the 8s are kind of doing, the KRN 8s, I should say, are doing what I kind of expect them to do. They need to get in close, draw the attention, while the bigger ships of the KRN can come in. They're kind of out of position. The 44th do have, I think, overall the better fleet comp, so... Oh, wait, the lead.
Yes, we just lost the Nemesis.
Yeah, the Nemesis is down. And not to mention, I think the Telecherry on the Rumrats team could be captured any moment now. Though the Normandy, the ship that is trying to board it, is equally low. But the Nemesis is down. That is a huge, humongous loss for the Rumrats. The blows keep coming for this team as methodically the Krakens are whittling away at them one ship by one ship. We've got 10 minutes left. It's still anybody's game, but right now the Krakens seem to be pulling ahead. I want to bring our attention back to the boarding action between the Telecherry and the Normandy. Can anybody tell me what seems to be going on these ships?
It is looking like the Krakens are winning, though the respawn waves are coming in for the Rumrats, but I don't know. The Krakens are at a pretty good spot. The Normandy's at like 10% health, just a couple more shots and it'll sink, but...
And it's got a Corvette hanging in behind it, and it's laying those shots. I think it's going to be sunk right now. I think this is it. I think the Normandy is going down. One single shot from that Corvette, and it's done.
Or the gunboat.
That said, the Telecherry is demasted, but it is not decrewed just yet. I think there is a chance that it could still survive, but the Krakens they do have command of the ship still. There are 3 of them left on that ship. So, I mean, wow. We could lose the ship. Yep, we have lost the Telecherry. She's down. That's the first sink for the Rumrats. They have gotten a ship down. It is not going to be a blowout. The Telecherry, though, is in a dangerous position. Let's go back to the main fleets and see what's happening there. I see some serious demasting from the Inferno and the Rumrats. Kieran, what's the status of the Rumrats in the main battle?
Well, it's looking like a almost going to be a 3 to 4v2 situation. The Inferno is heavily damaged. It's getting down to its 50% health. But they are pressing on. They're delivering shots onto the enemy 8 guns, and the lead the Vanguard 8 gun, which is the Dessoir. Sorry, I can't pronounce that. It's French, I think. That's doing well in terms of its HP, and they're trying to get some shots off onto the HMS Good Boy. Overall, they seem quite well composed. They're getting the repairs in a timely manner. But that Inferno is struggling. It's just not going very quickly. And
I mean, it's getting a T-cross from the rear, as you can see,
Yes.
by the Kraken ship. The War Crime is just hammering shots to his rear. What kind of HP do we have left on the Inferno right now, Krakrns?
Well, it's going down very quickly as we speak. It's down to about 35% HP.
Crossfire is brutal.
Yes. Yeah, that T-cross by the HMS Warcrime was really great move by the Kraken, and they're still delivering shots even at a larger distance. But the run rats, they're still trying to get some shots off onto the 8 guns, and as I said earlier, the Vanguard 8 gun for the French, it's doing quite well, all things considering.
Yeah, if Muffin Top, if you could tell us a little bit about what's going on the other side of the battle. We've got, it seems like we've got the Kraken's corvette fighting the Rumrat's corvette and an 8-gun right now. The Telecherry, the ship that had almost been caught by the Krakens, seems to be back in operation, and it seems to have gotten its mass back up, and they have lots of repairs going on, and they are fighting hard against... Ooh, we have a capture. I'm imagining the D's Knots is probably one of the gunboats, so we have a capture on one of the gunboats. Meanwhile, Krakrns, we have seen the 17 gun from the Rumrats go down. There are no Rumrats 17 guns remaining on the battlefield.
No, that's a tough one. They only have their 8-gun vessels now to fight the rest of the battle.
All right. Well, with that cleanup, I meant to turn them off and top. Tell us a little bit what's happening on that other part of the battle between the corvettes.
Well, it is a 2v1. I do think the HMS captain, he's doing his job. Hey, keep these two occupied, do what damage you can, and just keep them away from the main fleet engagement. Especially now with the enemy's main line kind of wrecked, so that his forces can kind of, come back. It is a fight he will lose, but as you can kind of tell, he's going down hard. And for those of you that don't know at home, if you see cannon trails and stuff like that, you're now seeing a new feature from the game kind of called off captain's abilities. Oh, and there he goes. He just sunk. But if you see the kind of the smoky red trails of cannonballs as they're traveling across the map, or across the enemy target, that's basically a damage boost, and that's something relatively new. Came with Age of Sail. Each captain now has abilities that impact his ship, things like that, and he went down hard. The captain was able to demast the enemy corvette, and it should be within range of that 17 gun.
Yes, indeed. And now, remember, though that was a very noble sacrifice by the Kraken's corvette, it didn't actually impact their ability to win. The corvette does not count for victory, right? So if it sinks, it's not good. You never want to lose any ships, but it's not going to determine victory or defeat. What is going to determine victory or defeat is the fact that there seems to be, let's see, how many ships left on the Rumrats team. The Rumrats have 2 8-guns remaining. Basically, that's it. Those 2 ships get sunk. It is in the bag for the Krakens, and I think we're going to have to check in again with Krakrns. Tell us the HP status. Let's start with the Desay, the 8-gun that was part of that main battle. That line has collapsed for the Rumrats. What's the HP that you're seeing there?
The HP of the Desay is about 80%. They are still going on strong, but the rest of the fleet, the corvette and the 8-gun that was just engaged in that battle, they did get hit pretty hard by the Kraken 17 gun. The Telecherries are about 50%, and then the corvette, I know it doesn't matter for points, but that is hovering around 35%. So not coming off great from that battle with both the enemy, the British corvette and the British 17 gun.
Yeah, and there is so much drama happening on these gunboats that I hope that we get to see some of it. But they are capturing each other, they're boarding each other, they're having their own battle in sort of the lowercase compared to this big battle that we're seeing amongst all the large ships. Yeah, I think at this point it's fair to say that the Rumrats are probably not going to be able to pull this one off. With no 17 guns to provide the incredible firepower needed to start sinking ships immediately, and the ability for these ships to repair themselves and maintain longer battles, it's looking like the Rumrats are probably going to be the ones who are going to go down. The question is, with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left, are they going to go down with still ships up, or are they going to go down completely? What do you think, Muffin Top? Where do you think this battle's headed?
I do think it's. If I were the Rumrats, then if we couldn't dive with the Corvette and the 8-gun onto that lone 17 and just try to take it out, that just just to go down hard. I would prefer, me personally, I would go down all guns ablazing.
Yeah.
So if the Rumrats want to do that, that's their opportunity. I don't know where their ships are exactly because I'm focusing on the other engagement, but that's what I would want to do.
So, yeah, I mean, if we're looking at the Desai, the Rumrats, the 8-gun that's really in the thick of battle, it is getting enveloped by 3 ships right now. Kieran's, what's the HP that guy looking at? He was pretty healthy before. He cannot still be healthy now.
No, unfortunately not. Since we last spoke, his health has gone down dramatically, about 35% and falling very quickly. We said before about launching onto the British 17-gun frigate. Sometimes it's easier said than done because while you're trying to maneuver in a position to take down a 17-gun, you're getting harassed by gunboats. You're trying to pursue a gunboat so it stops harassing you, and it just becomes more effort than it's worth sometimes. But the Desai is about to go down. Within a couple of shots, and it is out.
Yeah.
And it's gone. Yes.
You are seeing one quirk of the match now is, unfortunately, is auto spawning. So you may see a bunch of guys spawn in on the gunboats, but they're not active gunboats. That's a good thing to remember. Only 2 boats can be active at any time. However, since the auto spawn is on, then that means people start appearing on them. So gunners will have to be careful, and that situation could happen right there. The gunboat just got rammed by the 8-gun. I would say that's fair. I mean, the fight happened over here. It wasn't intentional. They're not intentionally targeting the unmanned boats. It's just the name of the game.
Right, and a boat does not have if it is not shooting, it is not active. So we have to be very careful here. And we also have to be very careful of the fact that, if a team is like it's getting a little complicated over by the gunboats. We'll have a talk with these guys afterwards, of course, because really you're not supposed to be swimming in the enemy spawn zone. So we'll take a look and make sure nothing untoward happens after the fact. But we still have 2 ships up, 1 ship that counts, 1 ship that doesn't for the Rumrats, and this is a very dangerous moment for them. 39 seconds left. The question is, how much does the Telecherry have left, Kieran's? How much gas in the tank, you think?
Well, gas in the tank is another question. It's got about 50% HP, and the Corvette's sort of supporting, but I mean they are up against a frigate, so it's going to go down pretty quickly. The Kraken crew just so well trained, even with the new mechanics in the game. But they're trying their best to try and get a sinking of the frigate before they go down themselves. And working together with the Corvette is a really good idea. Just do whatever you can at this point and work with the rest of whichever vessels you've got active.
And here it is. That is the timer. We are ending on a timer, but there can be no one who can say this battle did not end up action-packed. Big victory for the Krakrns. They got probably a 20,000 point lead over the Rumrats. That said, I think that the Rumrats didn't put up a very bad fight. I think they did a good job for a new team against a very experienced opponent. I'm looking forward to talking to them. If this is your first time watching, we do have the Admirals coming to join us in a few moments. They're going to tell us a little bit about their experience and what happened and what they kind of planned and what ended up happening out there. A brief interview with the Admirals are coming soon. But before then, let's talk amongst the 3 of us here. I'm going to start with Muffin. What's your takeaway from this battle? What did you think you were going to see? What did you see?
It's a little bit of the old and the new. where you saw the ships really maneuvering a lot more as compared to original seasons to try to find a good attack angle. You saw traditional line tactics still, offset, but then you really just saw captains using their damage boost ability, certain captains willing to, be the target, the tank damage, just focus on repairing while the rest of your ships, provide the actual support and a cannon firing. And I think overall, as I said, it was a constant game of maneuvering from the Krakens, especially since, to hand it to the Rumrats, they didn't stop moving. They kept moving, and that I do think that'll be key going forward.
Yeah. Krakrns, how about you? What did you expect out of this battle, and what did you see?
Well, I think it was a great battle for the Rumrats, and I think, as I said at the very start, they would have learned a lot from this battle. I think I expected a little bit more organization, but that being said, it's a new game, it's a new mechanics in the naval, and I think that they did well overall. But I would say that. It would be nice to see the Rumrats if they start off with a great fleet coordination. They should try and maintain it. Don't split off if you can help it, or try work together with the rest of the fleet where you can.
Okay. I have to say, based on what I saw there, these are even though we have tried our best to reclaim and restore the slower movement speed, the more chess-like atmosphere of season one's ship speeds and maneuverabilities, there is no question that these are faster battles. The reaction time is going to have to be a lot faster this season. Boarding actions were not as features as I thought they would be, and they were perilous when done. I'm going to be very interested to hear what those were like. But also, in general, it seems a lot easier to get dispersed, right? If this is anything to go by, it seems like it's a lot harder to keep your fleet coordinated. So teams are going to have to work on discipline, organization, and staying together as a fleet even more than they had to last season if they want to keep up with this new, faster format. Even slowed down much faster. All right. We have our admirals in here and we are excited to talk to them. We are going to ask them 3 questions each, one from myself and one from each of my co-hosts. So we're going to start with Sharp, 44th Sharp, who was our admiral today. How are you feeling after that battle, Sharp?
I'm feeling great. I'm really proud of all of my guys. First ever time being here, and I'm sure they all had an absolute joy, and I'm really happy with how they performed.
Yeah, that's a fantastic attitude because this is your debut. I mean, and not only just your debut, you were fighting one of the most storied teams in the NSL. And I felt that you did a really good job giving them a really difficult opponent. They did win, but they didn't win totally easily. And that is a credit to the progress that you guys have made. So I have one question. And so my question is going to be tell us a little bit about how you expected this battle to go when you got to the point of contact, right? I know there was a lot of maneuvering beforehand, and that's, I think that's, it was sort of obviously everybody was just trying to get a good feeling, a good moment where they felt that they could engage. But once that battle started, what were some of the things that you didn't expect to happen that did happen?
Honestly, I was really happy with how we managed to maintain the fleet for the first part, but I think what I didn't expect was our fleet getting separated, and it really comes down to how fast-paced the environment is now in naval, and making sure that in the future, if we do get separated, we can just get back together, especially when facing such a great team like Kraken, who will make full advantage of that.
Great. All right, I'm going to pass it over to Muffin. Muffin, what's your question for our admiral?
Well, did you guys see when this is for Sharp, when that 8 got stuck in the reef? Were you tempted to maybe dive on it, take a risk to get in closer and really try to punish that ship?
Yeah, most certainly. I think that was the plan from one of our captains. He saw that and he instantly wanted to jump on that. But I think with how things have went and this being our first match, we just wanted to play it really defensively. And I think at the end of the day, that could have been our downfall. It's risk versus reward at the end of the day.
Yeah. And then we'll pass it over. Kieran's, What is your question for Sharp?
I think my question would be from the start. I mean, the fleet cohesion looked really well. What was with the turns at the start? What was you hoping to achieve by making the turns you did? Was it just you reacting to the wind?
Well, we had devised a strategy based around trying to persuade the Kraken to go through the islands. Now, they have the experience to know that would have set them up for a trap. So they clearly didn't fall for that, unfortunately. But that was the initial strategy to try and get them to go through those islands so that we would always be in that defensive position.
Very good. All right. And I will leave you with one thing that I'd like you to tell the viewers, and that is, what is your takeaway that you're going to be using from this battle to prepare yourself for future battles?
Just adapt to how fast paced it can change and make sure that whilst you may have your formation good at the start, you need to keep that formation throughout the whole fight.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, Sharp, I want to congratulate you and all of your brave sailors for an excellent job out there in the NSL today. Thank you so much to you and everybody on your team for joining us. We are so happy to have you as part of this competition, and we cannot wait to see what all this learning that you're going to do in these early stages shapes into by the end of the season. So congratulations on a great fight, and we'll see you on the next one.
No, thank you very much. Thank you to Lemerck and of course to Kraken for the match.
All right, we are going to move on. We have Percy here. Percy, how you doing?
I am really well. I obviously it was congratulations to Rumrats for giving us a well fought game there. I wasn't entirely what to expect coming into this, to be honest, due to the how everything has changed. You know, it's kind of crazy compared to what we had last season. So
Yeah,
I'm doing
and
really well, thank you.
that's my first question for you. Now that you've experienced a season 2 NSL battle, what is the biggest change in your opinion?
There's so many to go for. I think the first one is probably going to be the wind moves now. It's not just stagnant as it was last time. So
Yeah.
you kind of have to play around with how that works and make sure that your fleet is going to try and maneuver with that, which obviously means sometimes there's going to be more twists and turns, which can also speed up or slow down a battle and change momentum on the fly. You could be in a really good position one minute and you might not be in the next. So you've kind of got to make sure that when you are going fully in, that you press the gas pedal when you have it, because you might not have it anymore, if that makes sense.
Yeah, very well said. Kieran's, what question do you have for Percy?
I think it would have to be around when the 8-gun vessel managed to run aground. Was it that the captain didn't see the reefs, or was it just that it had changed a lot since?
I believe the HMS Good Boy was doing a test to make sure the rest of the fleet could go through it.
I see.
And I believe the HMS Good Boy was a bad boy and made sure he crashed into the reef, and therefore made sure he couldn't go through it. But they did well regardless of the rest of the match, so I'll be fine with that.
Sacrificial 8-gun. I like it.
We all love a good sacrificial icon around here. All right, the question now is yours, Muffin.
Oh, Percy, man, you were a lot of maneuvering, a lot of, maybe not the prettiest formations to start off with. Seemed like there might have been some interesting communication happening, but when you committed, and I guess was that your main thing, is to dive into one fight and just keep that fight going?
Uh, we were trying to, when I first looked at the map, I wanted to go more right than anything, but I was thinking, that's what the Rumrats want us to do. They've got the wind, it's closer to them. They want me to go there and take that fight, so we were going to go left. And then the wind obviously was against us, so we wanted to turn around and stuff like that. And then as soon as they started going left, well, they know our trap that we wanted to set, so we're going to spring the one we wanted over there. And then they turned, and it just got to the point where we had our fleet cohesion so wiggledy and higgledy-piggledy because we couldn't obviously maintain it with all the twists and turns. And as I was saying about with the moving wind, that also became an issue. However, when we got to the point where our cannons were in range, we knew at that point we were already against the wind. So it's very highly likely that the wind was going to change again very soon in our favor. And once we predicted that, as soon as we saw the fact that they wanted to pull out and away, we knew that was the moment we had to push and strike. And luckily enough, our guys pushed through just the right amount to be able to get us the win today and the difference in those ships. So I put it a little bit down to sort of good luck in that sort of sense, that we managed to just predict, that we managed to hold it to the point where the wind was in our favor, to be able to push through in that sort of regard, if that makes sense.
Great. Now, same question to you that we finished with Sharp with, and that is based off of today. Now that you've seen how this version of the league plays, what are you bringing back to training for your next battle?
I think a little bit more positioning. I think Muffin was saying there. I had some positioning errors that I wanted to correct with my captains and teams today. There was a lot more. There was a lot more ships that I wanted to try and keep the 17 guns sort of alive with, but they are the tankiest ships, so they don't really need too much babysitting. But I think maybe keeping a couple more ships alive might be a good start. I know that I accidentally got caught out there at the end when I was on the little Corvette versus the Rum Rats there, so very well done to those crews because they made sure it was. I was trying to finish off the work that Swag was doing there, so I think it's just more cleaning up a little bit, and just make sure that we work on our communication and tactics, because that's the mainstay at the end of the day. So
very good. Well, gentlemen, Sharp and Percy, thank you so much for your time again. And Percy, thank you so much for your team. Thanks for coming back this season. This is going to be a great season for the Krakrns, and I can't wait to see how it goes for you guys. I know that you guys are gunning hard for those top 4 slots so that you can make into the championship. And I'm sure lots. Yeah, it's top 4. So this season, we have 8 teams. And so to make it to the championship, you only have to get into the top 4 teams. And then at that point, at the end of the season, the first ranked team and the 4th ranked team will fight, and the 2nd ranked team and the 3rd ranked team will fight. And then the winners of those 2 matches will fight for the championship. So that's what the final tournament looks like at the end of the year, but we're a long ways from that. We've still got to wrap our head around this new game and figure out how to win in this thing. But you are the first person to do it. So congratulations, Percy. We'll all be taking a look at how you did it and trying to learn from you. I want to thank you guys for, again, your participation and your excellent battling today and answering all our questions here. I also really want to thank a few people, specifically all the guys behind the scenes in the NSL. I want to single out one specifically, Atticus, who has been absolutely working like a madman for this entire weekend. His eyes bleeding, his fingers ground down to nubs as he is typing away and editing and getting everything set up. We've got guys like Gunner and Killam who are helping out all over the place, getting mercenaries sorted out, and the mercenary system is even more complex this year than it used to be. We have Eggs, who helped with all of our graphics. If you've noticed the new graphics, Eggs was the one who made them, and we love them, and we can't wait to show more and more and more of that. So everybody behind the scenes, I'm sure there's a million people I didn't thank. Of course, all of our correspondents who helped out, everybody you're going to see on these credits when they roll. We're just so very grateful for all of them and for all of their help and the volunteer time that they put into this league to make this the greatest competition in Holdfast. At least I humbly think so. And I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Again, Muffin and Krakrns, thank you so much for joining me today in the announcer's booth. I hope you guys have had a great time. Say goodbye to our fans because we're about to sign off.
Call me anytime. I'll be here. See you later.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, folks, this has been the first battle of Season 2 of the NSL. We'll see you for the second one in just a week's time. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you later.